Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and this is my weekly wrap-up. It is Monday night and I apologize for looking disheveled and frumpy because it's a holiday, Columbus Day, and we went for a hike today, which was tremendous fun. And you probably just saw the clips of that. Had a great time. A whole group of us went and it was the perfect weather for a hike. The air was brisk and cool without being cold. And there wasn't a great deal of color in the woods where we were walking, but there was some color, enough, there was obviously fall. And, there was just the fall treasures that you can see, the small things like little pine cones that had fallen on the ground and mushrooms that were growing and some of the leaves that had fallen already. And the sky was just beautiful blue. There was one part of the hike where we were walking down the path and on either side were these really tall pine trees of some kind. And then the sun was just coming behind them, or the sky was just behind them, and it was so blue and it was so beautiful. And it was just a perfect day for a hike and everybody who was there had so much fun. Wonderful. So I was actually able to cross off on a hike for my Cozy Cottage readathon for October. Although I did not read anything on the hike, but I talked about books. I found out that one of my friends loves Pride and Prejudice. How did I not know this about her? Has read it many times, and she and I agreed that the 1995 version was the best adaptation. And then the other friend that was with us had seen the 2005 version and had enjoyed it, but wanted to see the 1995 version, and she also wanted to read the book because she really liked the story. So anyway, we had fantastic fun. I don't have much in the way of reading to share because I have not yet finished anything still. However, I have made significant progress, especially on The Doctor's Wife. I'm sort of hoping I can finish it tonight, but I have like 4 or 5 chapters left. I'm 85% of the way through, so my goal is to finish it tonight. We'll see. I also want to finish the second chapter of Dracula, which I am about halfway through the second chapter. And I've started reading this as a buddy read with Kathy and one of my subscribers. And so we are just getting started on this. And wow, it does start with a bang, for sure. Really enjoying it. And I really enjoyed hearing Tammy at the Protagonist Pubs, her thoughts on Dracula in the reading vlog that she did recently, and I will link to that. It was very interesting, and yeah, thoroughly enjoying this one so far, but haven't gotten far in it. Another book that I picked up is Dickensland, and I have just not even finished the first chapter. I'm just kind of like picking up randomly when I have a spare minute, which isn't very often, and reading a little bit. It's not the kind of thing, because, it's not a story building on itself, so I don't need to read, it all in one sitting. It may take me longer than just October to read through this one, but it is interesting. It's very interesting about kind of like the cult of Dickens that grew up around his fame in England and around the world, and the places that have been ascribed to Charles Dickens and as being in his works. Some of them actually were, and some of them, people were just capitalizing, as we do, on the success of his books and kind of riding the coattails of his fame, so to speak. So it's very interesting, but I'm not very far in that one either. But the main thing that I wanted to share with you currently at the moment is a little tiny book haul because I'm so excited about it. So I played the piano for a friend of mine at her mother's funeral, and she gave me an Amazon gift card in response as a token of appreciation, which she did not have to do because I am always happy to play the piano for anyone who needs it, especially my friends at any time. And I do not need any kind of reward or compensation for that. But I was very excited because it enabled me to get a couple of things off of my wish list. One of which I've been wanting since earlier this year when I saw it, when we went to our trip to Boston in the spring. I've never been to Boston in the fall, but I've been in the spring. Tell me if you catch that reference. Anyways, so this is it. And it was on sale on Amazon Prime. It was just a little over $20, I think. So I was very excited to get this one, the Annotated Little Women, edited with an introduction and notes by John Matteson. And I had checked this out of the library earlier this year after seeing it in Boston at the Orchard House. And I loved it so much. I didn't read all the annotations in it at that point in time. And I didn't even read all of the introduction, which is sort of a biography of Louisa Alcott and more background information to the writing of Little Women, etc. But I read enough to know that I really wanted to get this book. And I saw enough in the book with all of the pictures and information that is added to this book that I just knew I need this one. So the next time I read Little Women, I'm reading it from this annotated version, and then it has pictures from various adaptations sprinkled throughout, little sketches, I think from previous editions of the book. And then of course, all kinds of notes and annotations explaining various things. A lot of them are explaining the books that Louisa May Alcott is referencing, because she referenced many books and mentioned many books in this story. But there's also, you know, like context information, you know, historical context or period slang, that kind of stuff. So it's, or also there's like biographical tie-ins to Louisa May Alcott's life, because, you know, this book is based on her and her sisters, although it's not autobiographical, but it's based on their life. So there are some definite connections to her real life. So anyway, I was so excited because I really wanted this one. It's so chunky and heavy, but it's so beautiful and I love it. And so I'm excited to read Little Women again at some point with that annotated version. And then this one, I just laughed when I got it because I was not expecting it quite in this format. One of the novels that Louisa May Alcott wrote for adults, but not children, that was not very popular even, I think, when she published it, and to this day, but it sounds intriguing and I'm interested because I want to read all of her major novels and all of her major works. That is Moods. And I am intrigued by it, so I wanted to read it. And it's one of those, I guess it's like print on demand or something like that on Amazon. And I was not expecting it. It still cracks me up. The size of it. I'm sure the size is in the Amazon listing. I just didn't pay attention to it. I expected it to be more like, you know, not this thick, but like, you know, like that size. It's like magazine size, which really, really cracks me up. I don't know why. It just tickles my funny bone and I can't look at it without laughing. Also, I don't know, does she actually write this as a historical novel? Like, is it supposed to be set in the Regency era? Because they are definitely wearing Regency era clothes in that painting in the front. Or was that just a poorly chosen painting for the front of this book? I'm leaning towards the latter, but I really, really don't know. It's cracking me up. But at any rate, at least it will enable me to read this book by Louisa May Alcott at some point. Oh my goodness, look at this. Oh, why is this so funny? I don't know, but it makes me laugh so hard. Anyway, I don't even know where I'm going to put that, where it's going to fit on my shelves. It's the same size, not in thickness, but it's the same size as the big annotated book. Oh my goodness. So that was my excitement this week, but I'm hoping to finish The Doctor's Wife tonight, and if I do, I'll make a clip in the next day or two with my thoughts about that I have not shared already, in addition to what I've already shared. And also I am working my way through Sylvia's Lovers. I'm about, I guess, 65% of the way through that one, and I'm hoping to finish that one this week. So I'll have both of those wrapped up, because by the end of the week, I am going to begin the Thursday Murder Club with Jess at Pages and Grace. And I'm looking forward to actually being able to read this one that's been on my TBR for a while. So I have a lot going on this week reading-wise, and yeah, just wanted to kick off this week's reading wrap-up and get it started. So I will see you in the next clip. Hello, it is Thursday evening, and I have the house to myself for approximately another 30 minutes or so. So I am going to try to take advantage of the quiet solitude and film the final clip for my weekly reading wrap-up. I just got this cute little mug at the thrift store. I love the shape of it, but you can't see the cute little vintage looking drawing on the other side. Sorry, the shape of it makes it a little bit unwieldy. So see those pretty little flowers? I was looking for a fall mug because I don't have very many like cozy fall mugs. Weird, right? And so I've been looking for some, but they're all ugly or cheesy. So I found that one. It was cute. Not really fallish though. So anyway, I have finished 3 books. 3 books. Let me just tell you real quick about one of them. My Boys and I, this is the second book that we have read by Bob Shultz, Boyhood and Beyond, Practical Wisdom for Becoming a Man. And we kind of used it as a devotional the past couple of months on our way to school in the morning. And I think that my kids probably felt like each chapter was maybe a little bit longish for a devotional, but it was fine. It was very readable and it's very engaging. It's kind of like a grandpa sitting down with you and just sharing things he's learned from his life, from himself, from his friends that he knew. He always starts each chapter with a little story. That's pretty engaging. Some of his illustrations my kids thought were a little bit like cheesy or dated maybe. And one it took us all aback a little bit because it was about dirty diapers and this man who collected dirty diapers. Now, he was making a point, and that point stuck with us because of the dirty diaper illustration. But some of them were a little bit eyebrow raising, but overall very good, great advice for young boys who are on the verge of becoming men, which is what my children are. And they enjoyed it overall. They seemed engaged for the most part each chapter that we read. And his advice is just spot on in my opinion. A lot of people nowadays might consider some of it old-fashioned, but in my opinion, that's a pretty good thing for the most part. So we have one other book by him that we're going to be reading for devotions. So finished that. And then I also finished The Doctor's Wife and Sylvia's Lovers within a couple of days of each other. So I did not write anything down about those books, but I've just had so many thoughts running through my mind about both of them. And so I hope I can do them justice in like 10 minutes or less, so this video isn't too long. First of all, I think I mentioned before that there are so many correlations in these 2 books, which made it really interesting to read them simultaneously, which was unintentional on my part. I had no idea that there would be these correlations and these similarities between these 2 stories. So in both of them, you have a female protagonist who is young and naive. And so there is an element of being a coming of age story in both of these. And the one girl, she is like naive in a dreamy kind of way, and she wants like this storybook life, but her storybook life is kind of similar to like Catherine Morland in Northanger Abbey. In fact, I feel like there is a lot of similarity between The Doctor's Wife and which is by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, and Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Jane Austen is spoofing the Gothic novel, like just poking fun at it. She actually enjoyed Gothic novels herself, is my understanding, but she also enjoyed poking fun at them and the overdone aspect of them with Northanger Abbey. And Catherine Morland in Northanger Abbey is very much into reading Gothic novels. She's almost obsessed with it. And she kind of daydreams and imagines that, you know, situations in her real life are like that of a graphic novel. I mean, a Gothic novel, but she's just imagining and reading into things that aren't there. And I feel like Mary Elizabeth Braddon in The Doctor's Wife is kind of doing something to her own genre, which she wrote, which is the sensational novel. And I think that this is like a book that is pretending to be a serious novel, but it's kind of spoofing on sensation novels. So it's really neither one of those. It's almost satire, but it's not quite. So it's a little bit genre bending, in my opinion, even though I've never read a sensation novel, so I don't exactly know what to compare it with. But based on what other people were saying who were in the group read, it's not really as sensational as the typical sensation novels would be, although it does deal with the scandalous topic of potential adultery and potential running away with a man who is a married woman running away with an unmarried man. And so potentially very scandalous stuff, but it's actually not dealt with it's not really that scandalous when you read it. So it really falls short of a true sensation novel, is my understanding. But at the same time, she's definitely poking fun at it because there is this main character, Sigismund, not a main character, there's a side character called Sigismund Smith, which is like the best name. And he is also one of the best characters in the book. And he is always writing these sensation novels. And he's a really funny character. He adds an element of humor to the story, but he's also one of her key vehicles for poking fun at sensation novels because she's obviously mocking the sensational nature of the title. And he's always like obsessed with crime and murder and all these salacious things. And so that's one aspect where, you know, she's kind of like spoofing it. And it's really pretty funny whenever he is on the scene. And he opens and closes the book. So there's that. But back to comparing Doctor's Wife with Sylvia's lovers, Isabel, who's the main character in The Doctor's Wife, is dreamy, and like Catherine Morland, she's obsessed with sensation type novels, or really just novels of any kind. And she imagines her heroes who are really kind of anti-heroes, like the brooding Byronic type of hero. And that's she's kind of obsessed with, and she wants to have like a storybook life, but in her mind, a storybook life is not, you know, marrying a prince and living happily ever after in the castle. It's more like, you know, dying for love of someone, or, you know, having the consumption and dying before she's 20 years old, or marrying someone who turns out to be a murderer or something like that. Like that's her idea of a storybook life. She wants to have some kind of, you know, grand adventure. And then Sylvia and Sylvia's lovers, she doesn't know how to read, and that's kind of part of the story. So she's not really consumed with storybook ideals, but she does have a little bit of a dreamy quality to her nature. And she is attracted to a guy who is kind of the bad guy. And so in both of these, and she's also like, she's immature and naive in that she really doesn't understand the true nature of this guy that she's interested in. And she has these kinds of ideals of how she wants her life to turn out, what she wants it to be, that aren't necessarily based in the reality. So those are the similarities between those two characters. But Sylvia is a little bit more level-headed and a little more natural and down to earth and practical. As far as their stories go, they both are interested in the bad guy and the villain, so to speak, of each story. And these guys, they're not like horrible people, really, but they're just shallow. They're charming. They're handsome. In the case of The Doctor's Wife, he is rich and wealthy, and he lives in an amazing house, which, by the way, I want to live in that house. It's called Mordred Priory. And the description of the library was amazing. I don't know if I already said that, but I love that. And in the case of Sylvia, the guy that she's interested in isn't necessarily more well-to-do than the guy that she ends up with, or, you know, the foil for that guy, but there's not really that well-to-do aspect. But lost my train of thought. But anyways, so they're both attracted to the bad guy. And then there is the good guy who's boring in both cases. Like, he's really kind of a boring guy and a little bit self-righteous. They both have ambition. So there's that. They both have ambitions. And in Sylvia's Lovers, the guy, Philip, like, he's actually, you know, taking steps toward his ambitions. And in The Doctor's Wife, the doctor, like, he's a hardworking country doctor who really cares for his patients. And so he's a good guy. But he has kind of like vague ambitions, but he's not really necessarily doing anything to move up in the world, so to speak. But he's just a really solid guy, extremely boring. And Isabel is extremely bored by him, but he's a good guy. And in Sylvia's Lovers, the main problem with Philip is that he is not Charlie, who is the person that Sylvia really is attracted to and interested in. And that's Philip's main drawback. But also, he's a little bit like, he's older than Sylvia, and he's wiser in the ways of the world, and he's just more intellectual and a little more driven than Sylvia, and he doesn't really have patience for her flights of fancy or her emotions or things like that. And he's just a little more down to earth than she is, and has difficulty seeing from her perspective. Also, when he's starting out in the courtship process of her mom wants him to teach her like how to read and write, and she has zero interest in it. So it's really kind of not an ideal situation. She is obstinate and stubborn. He's trying to teach her something, and so that kind of puts him in more of like the aspect of a tutor to her rather than a lover. So that kind of gets their relationship off on the wrong foot. So you have this setup in both books, this triangle. And spoiler alert. So skip ahead to the next chapter if you don't want to hear spoilers for these two books. In both of these books, people die. Now, I'm not going to say anything else, but there are people that die. In Sylvia's Lovers, because Elizabeth Gaskell is a master at digging deep into the human psyche, into the emotion. In that one, you're probably gonna cry. I cried. I cried the last 25% of the book. Well, maybe not quite that much. Last few chapters, I was definitely crying. In The Doctor's Wife, she's not really eking out your emotions in that way. So the deaths, and her tone overall is much more of a mocking tone. It's not a serious tone. It's a more mocking tone. So you don't get that emotional engagement into the deaths that happen, but they do come as a bit of a surprise. At least one of them does. The one is foreshadowed quite a bit, so you kind of see that coming, but the other one is quite surprising. In Sylvia's Lovers, the death is foreshadowed to a certain extent, not all the way through the book, but to a certain extent. And so you do see that one coming, and you're just kind of bracing yourself for that impact. And in both cases, I really would have preferred for the death not to have happened. I would have liked to have seen a deeper reconciliation, because there is a little bit of character growth in The Doctor's Wife. Not a lot, a little bit. There's a little bit of character growth in The Doctor's Wife. There is significant character growth in Sylvia's Lovers, but I feel like it would have been more fulfilled if there had been a deeper reconciliation between the two main characters, and an opportunity for them to work out their reconciliation in life. But that was interrupted by death. So that didn't happen, and I felt a little bit cheated about that. Also, it made for a really sad ending of the book. In The Doctor's Wife, I feel like it would have been a better novel if there had been the same thing, like that opportunity for reconciliation and character growth and development without the death. But I don't think that was the story that Mary Elizabeth Braddon was telling. And so I think the ending that she did was the best ending for the story that she was telling. And she was kind of spoofing on these things. Spoofing on, you know, the sensation novel or whatever. And it was a tiny bit satirical in nature. So she wasn't really trying to do a serious novel with serious character development. That wasn't her goal. It didn't seem like to me. So it makes sense the way she did it. But I think it could have been a really good story with more character development and reconciliation. So many more things that I could say about these books. A lot of people in the group read about The Doctor's Wife were saying that the pacing felt kind of back and forth, and that was largely in part to the fact of the serialization. I think I already mentioned that. So there were some parts of it that ran slower and were more introspective than others. That didn't really bother me too much. I felt it moved quickly enough overall that I wanted to keep reading for the most part. Like, it wasn't really slow. Sylvia's Lovers, on the other hand, was completely different in that Elizabeth Gaskell spent so much time building up this story. So much time. And like 60% of the book is build up. And she's setting up the characters and she's setting up for the plot. Now, there are some things that happen, but that are important to the plot, but it doesn't really get going until you're about 60% of the way through the book. So if you happen to start it and you're just completely bored by it, keep holding on. All of that is kind of necessary scaffolding for the things that happen in the last 40% of the book. And the last 40% of the book moves really fast. And so the pacing is a little bit uneven in that one as well, but in a totally different way. It's just like a little bit like a bottom heavy. So you go through all of this stuff, slow, 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 and then boom, when it heats up, and things just happen really fast. In both of them, well, they're kind of dealing a little bit with different themes. In Sylvia's Lovers, we're definitely dealing with a topic of forgiveness. That's a huge issue in Sylvia's life, and something that she has to work through. That's a really big part of her character development and growth, is that she learns how to forgive really deep hurts. And in The Doctor's Wife, it's a little bit more nebulous. It's about the nature of relationships between men and women, and sin, and the choices that we make selfishly. Someone in the group read pointed out that each of the characters doesn't really see from the other character's perspective. They're all so involved in their own perspective of what they see. They don't see realistically. And that was a really good point, because definitely true, and definitely one of the things that hinders human relationships is that inability to really see the other person and from their perspective and what is actually going on in their lives, instead of making assumptions based on your own perspective. And that is a huge aspect of that story, The Doctor's Wife. So I think in the end, I gave The Doctor's Wife 3.5 stars, rounded up to 4. It wasn't like the best book I've ever read, or amazing, or earth-shattering, or anything. It was fine. It was enjoyable. It was an interesting read. And then Sylvia's Lovers is not my favorite Elizabeth Gaskell. And most of the way through, I was thinking this is a 4-star book. But by the end, I was ready to give it 5 stars wholeheartedly. So I did enjoy it very much. It won't rank as top in my Elizabeth Gaskell books, but it was very good. So I actually don't know how I would rank Elizabeth Gaskell's books. That would be tricky. It wouldn't be at the bottom, I don't think, but it's not at the top either. So somewhere in the middle. Anyway, so now I am reading Dracula, and I am loving it. Now, I have seen where the beginning moves really fast, but then the middle part kind of slogs, and then the end picks up again. So we'll see how that goes. But so far, I'm really loving it. It's, yeah, I want to keep reading it. I'm doing it as a buddy read, and we're just reading like a couple chapters a day. But sometimes I want to read more than that, so I might read ahead a little bit. And then I haven't read too much more in this Dickensland, but now that I'm done with both The Doctor's Wife and Sylvia's Lovers, I'm hoping I can dig into that one a little bit more. And I'm going to start this one this weekend. Richard Osman, The Thursday Murder Club. Jess Pages and Grace and I are going to be reading that as a buddy read. I might have already mentioned that. Sorry if I'm saying it again. When I was at the thrift store today, I picked up another couple of little things. November is more Montgomery, and so I'm planning to join in on that at least a little bit. And this is one of the books that I want to read by Lucy Montgomery, reread. I'm sure I read these when I was younger, but I would like to read them again. And Emily of New Moon was there, so I picked up a copy of that, and I think that that will knock off a prompt or two for me. And then I picked up a couple of cookbooks. An air fryer cookbook. These were like 99 cents. So air fryer cookbook and a 1-pot cookbook. So, and they're both low carb. So that's good. I'm always looking for inspiration for that. So much better if it's something I can cook that my whole family will like. So, and I do like using my air fryer, and I like the idea of 1-pot. And being low carb, it probably will be pretty like wholesome ingredients. Cause sometimes like those 1-pot things have a lot of, you know, processed ingredients. So anyway, we'll see. I'm looking forward to flipping through them and seeing what all there is. So that was my week. and I'm going to be really busy tomorrow and Saturday, so I don't think I'll have time to make any more clips. I will have some time to read here and there, but I don't think I'll finish anything since I'm just picking stuff up. Oh, I'm also reading Honest Faith by Charles Spurgeon, about 75% of the way through. I'm reading according to the schedule for the group read with Tiffany at Beautiful Minutia, so I will wrap that up next week, and really enjoying that. It's a great book, and it's very easy to read, very readable. So anyway, that is my week. I hope you've had a great week. By the way, I did a poll on my community tab on my channel asking if you are ready yet to hear about my 2025 reading challenge. And the answer was a resounding yes, with 80-some% yes. Everybody is apparently already planning for the next year, which of course I am too, so I get that. So I am going to be on Wednesday, sharing my 2025 reading challenge with you and all of the details. So be looking for that video, and I will see you next time. Bye.